Let's face it, growing up kinda sucks. People tend to get more angry and stressed out over the silliest things. So many adults just end up grumpy and don't want to deal with kids. And maybe that's why they end up being the perfect supervillains. After all, that is the premise of Codename Kids Next Door. And who exactly is supposed to fight these angry and grumpy and supervillainous adults? Who else but a secret group of super spies that just happen to be kids? Does all of that sound silly? Well, I mean, it should, because it is, but it's also amazing. So I'm here to give you all the sweet details on the secret organization known only as the Kids Next Door. This is Know Your Show on Codename Kids Next Door. The overall plot of Codename Kids Next Door is that there's a group of kids secret agents who work under the umbrella of the Kids Next Door organization. The show follows Sector V of the organization, which is made up of number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And yes, it's number. If anybody says number, they're clearly a double agent and they must be dealt with. The goals of Sector V are to stop the things that kids hate at all costs. Things like housework and flossing. Oh, and they also have to deal with the evil adults that try to enforce these harsh rules. If all that wasn't already silly enough to get you to start watching the show also has some really great characters and some top-notch humor. Each episode starts off great just based on the titles alone. Each episode title is an acronym that gives a hint as to what the episode is going to be about. One of our favorite titles? Operation Brief. Big reward if enemy finished. This episode is basically how number 1's underwear starts attacking him because his underwear figures out how kids actually treat their underwear. Did we mention this show is a little silly? The kids have to deal with a lot of the difficult things that normal kids would have to deal with, but in the most over-exaggerated way possible. It could be anything from parents trying to keep kids out of the local swimming pool, to teenagers planning with the adults to take over the neighborhood. But at the end of the day, it's the kids themselves that are the heart of where the show stems from. Number 1, aka Nigel Uno, is the leader of Sector V. He's hardworking, he cares about his team, and he would rather be out on the field than relaxing at home. He also rocks a sweet red sweater, giant boots, and slick sunglasses. Number 2, aka Hoagie P. Gilligan Jr., is the local tech and pun expert at Sector V. He primarily develops weapons and gadgets for the 2x4 technology branch of the Kids Next Door organization. If he's not busy gorging himself with chili dogs, then he's most likely tinkering around with the newest gadget for the team to use. Number 3, aka Kuki Sanban, is in charge of the team's diversionary tactics. She's also the medical specialist, and she does what she can to treat any boo-boos the kids might get. She also loves taking care of all the hamsters in the team's treehouse. If she's not taking care of the hamsters, then she's probably gushing about rainbow monkeys, which are basically this show's version of Care Bears. Number 4, aka Wallaby Beetles, is the Aussie brute force of Sector V. He's quick to act on impulse, sometimes to his own disadvantage, but he's always there to protect his friends. Especially number 3, since he may just have a teeny tiny crush on her. Part of the reason he probably became so hot-headed is due to his being sent to boarding school so often and having to break out every time. Number 5, aka Abigail Abby Lincoln, is the intelligence expert and second in command at Sector V. She was recruited to join Sector V by her sister, number 11, who eventually became a teenager and betrayed the team, because all teenagers are heartless backstabbers. After her sister's betrayal, number 5 became the leader for Sector V, but eventually gave the lead to number 1. She's the definition of cool, and out of all the kids, she has the most common sense and always stays level-headed. Sector V is a great team by themselves, but what's a team of highly trained kid spies without some enemies, right? Well, Sector V has the best villain group in the Delightful Children from Down the Lane. They're a creepy group of kids who are basically the polar opposites of Sector V, both in appearance and personality. They dress real bad and talk in unison as one entity. Basically, they're like a hive mind, but kids. Oh, and did we mention that they're led by their father, who is a black silhouette that frequently erupts into flames? I've heard of a fiery temper, but this is ridiculous. The show's opening credits perfectly showcase what to expect from the show. It has a cool James Bond-esque theme song and showcases each member of Sector V perfectly. Their actions in the opening sequence do a great job in showcasing their unique personalities without them having to say a word. Now, the gang has been through a lot. More than any group of kids should have to go through. But that's what makes the show so great, and super silly most of the time. Their adventures, just to name a few, would include things like fighting evil underwear, which we've mentioned before, stealing cake, fighting an evil dentist named Nightbrace, dealing with mutant lice, getting kidnapped by cheese ninjas, and of course, having to fight nerd zombies. It's all just another day at the office when you're part of Sector V. So how did this crazy show come to be? Well, it's all thanks to creator Tom Warburton, or better credited as Mr. Warburton. Warburton started his animation career doing various commercial work for Levi, Converse, and Slim Jim. After years of advertising work, he got a gig to develop a show for Cartoon Network. His initial idea was a show called Kenny and the Chimp, which was about a boy who had a friend that was a not-so-smart chimpanzee named Chimpy. The kids next door were actually planned recurring characters for Kenny and the Chimp, and Warburton decided to make them into their own show after Cartoon Network passed on Kenny and the Chimp. Eventually, the pilot episode, No Pee in the Ool, won a poll that was being hosted by Cartoon Network for its viewers. By winning that poll, Cartoon Network gave Warburton and his team the green light, and Codename Kids Next Door came to be. The show was a hit for Cartoon Network and would go on for 6 seasons. 2 television films were also produced for the series. The episode Operation Archive also won the series the award for Best Television Series for Children at the 2005 Ottawa International Animation Festival. The next year, Operation Licorice won the festival's Kaleidoscope Award for Television Animation for Children. Sometimes, my hometown gets it right. Now, you may be asking yourself, why did I start watching Codename Kids Next Door? Okay, maybe you're not asking yourself that, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I started watching Codename Kids Next Door because I, like a lot of people, grew up on charming super spies like James Bond, and to an equal or lesser extent Austin Powers. There was something about being a spy that was just so alluring and exciting, but I always thought, well, I'm just a kid, what can I do? Well, that's where Codename Kids Next Door comes in. It showcases this group of diverse and awesome kids who just want the world to be fun and free of the tyranny of adults. How could you not be excited for a show like that as a kid? So, you've got the gist of the show now, but where do you go from here? Well, the great thing about Codename Kids Next Door is that a vast majority of the episodes are self-contained. But some episodes do reference previous missions, and there are some other episodes that are direct continuations of others. But for the most part, you can watch any episode and know what's going on. However, it would be to your benefit to watch the pilot episode because it gives you a great sense of who these kids are and what they're trying to do. It also introduces the creepy, delightful children from down the lane. You can also check out the only episode of Kenny and the Chimp, which was produced as part of the pilot episode. And if you want to know some of the best of what Codename Kids Next Door has to offer, here are 3 of the best episodes of the series. Number 3, Season 4, Episode 4, Operation Pool. This is one of the craziest episodes that KND has to offer. It offers so much in action, plot twists, and alternate realities. Number 2, Season 5, Episode 1, Operation Elections. This episode shows how cynical and corrupt politics can be, even for elections that involve kids. It's one of the funniest episodes the show has to offer, and also there's a reference to a certain sci-fi film. And number 1, Season 5, Episode 11, Operation Maurice. Maurice is easily one of the most emotional episodes of the series. It's not only the best episode that is number 5 centric, but it's also the best episode to capture what Codename Kids Next Door was able to offer as a show, and it's absolutely perfect. Those are the best of what Codename Kids Next Door has to offer, but there are plenty of other great episodes. Operation Munchies is a silly episode that features most of the villains of the series. The best thing about it? Both Sector V and the villains are all after the same thing, a box of rainbow munchies. Operation Treaty is a great episode that led up to the show's finale. It's an emotional one with a lot of twists and turns, so it's a great episode to build up to that final hurrah. Number 2 is widely regarded as one of the best characters in Codename Kids Next Door, and his little brother Tommy is equally as great. The episode Operation Graduates is another emotional episode that follows Tommy and what he's willing to do to save his brother. No Pee in the Ool, the only episode to not feature an acronym title, is the second segment of the show's pilot. The plot perfectly summarizes the show's core values. The kids try to stop the adults from increasing the adult swim time at the community pool. It's a silly thing to fight for, but to the kids, it's everything. That pretty much sums up every mission for Codename Kids Next Door. Codename Kids Next Door was a special show that, quite frankly, didn't stay on the air long enough. Fortunately, the show did last a decent while and got a proper send-off, which is more than can be said for a lot of shows. It's a perfect show for kids, in that it makes them feel rebellious and like they can do anything. And for adults, it allows them to recapture the fun and adventure they had when they were kids. It really is a show for everyone. It has heart, action, humor, and great messages throughout. If you haven't checked out Codename Kids Next Door, then it's lucky for you that the internet exists. The show is pretty hard to come by physically since there was never any complete DVD box set released for the show, but each season is available to purchase on Amazon and iTunes. And that's what you need to know for Codename Kids Next Door. Which number do you feel you relate to the most? Do you think you could eat more chili dogs than number 2? And finally, if you're familiar with the show already, leave us your favorite episode in the comments. And if you've never seen the show before, scroll through the comments of this video. You're probably gonna find some really great recommendations. Thanks for watching Know Your Show. Do you have any requests for any show you think more people should be watching? Let us know in the comments. Also, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe to ChannelFrederator and ring the little bell icon to become part of our notification squad. And remember, Frederator loves you.